You and your stupid content.
Well, why are you recording my sessions with the boys?
So what? What do you care? Nothing embarrasses you anyway.
Do you really know the importance of the topics I cover?
What are you covering today?
Well, today I'm going to pick up from where we left off the last time, the balance of payment crisis of 1991.
What about it? It's so plain and simple. Liberalization help us become and grow.
Do you really know what today's topic is all about? It's as much about the 1991 policy as it's about the politics, the bureaucracy, and the people who squandered all the opportunities that we got.
What nonsense.
Do you know our manufacturing contribution to our GDP in 1991 was 15%, and in 33 years we have gone on from 15% to a whopping 17%. Do you think really we succeeded?
Do you know what your subscriber base is? You've gone from 2,000 to a whopping 2027 subscribers. After all of my effort of uploading and posting all of your videos online, just go and do your job.
Alright. Hey Raju, Hey Raju, did you read up about the 1991 reforms? It's your turn today. What the hell? How can it be my turn again? Oh, you idiot. Yes, it was your turn today. The professor was very specific. You were supposed to read up about the impact of the reforms on the external trade. What nonsense are you spouting?
I think you're wrong. He just said boys read up about the reforms.
Damn you, Meek. What is wrong, sir?
I just found out my wife is secretly recording our sessions and she's putting it up on YouTube. She wants to make money off of
I want to
it.
be on YouTube?
Yes, you nitwit, but you and your nincompoop students are just not good enough. Our channel has just added a few hundred subscribers since your lectures have started. Why can't you teach better?
Alright, woman. I shall make this my life's mission. Boys, we shall learn till we earn.
भाषण कुछ ज्यादा नहीं हो गया.
Let's get on with it. So, who was supposed to read up about the 1991 reforms?
It was Raju.
Raju, what are the key reforms made in 1991? How are we going to get more subscribers? Do you think if you fail your exams, we'll get more subscribers? Will you like to be in the same class as your younger sister Kaju?
Kaju? Sir, but it was not me.
Yes, sir. It wasn't him.
Yeah.
Alright. Meek, read up the list of reforms I've shared.
पता नहीं ऐसे डेंजरस सिचुएशन में मैं ऑटोमेटिकली आगे कैसे आ जाता हूँ.
Okay. You're an idiot, Meek. You're an idiot.
Okay. I'll start with delicensing and MRTP. Quoting Dr. Arvind Panagaria, chairman of the 16th Finance Commission of India. In a single stroke, the Statement of Industrial Policy dated July 24, 1991 and frequently called the New Industrial Policy did away with the investment licensing and myriad entry restrictions on the MRTP firms. Public sector monopoly was reduced to 8 sectors, later trimmed to only railway transportation and atomic energy. Some notable companies that emerged or expanded significantly in India as a result of the 1991 reforms, they were Reliance Industries, expanding into telecommunications, retail and other industries. Infosys, founded in 1981, Infosys saw exponential growth after 1991 reforms, becoming a global IT services giant. Bharti Airtel, they entered the telecommunications sector in 1995 and they took advantage of the newly liberalized telecom industry. In banking, there was HDFC Bank, established in 1994, and it became one of India's leading private sector banks. In IT and software companies besides Infosys, firms like Wipro, TCS experienced rapid growth in the post-reform era. Fast-moving consumer goods industry saw players like Unilever, who increased their stake in Hindustan Lever and now it's Hindustan Unilever. Procter & Gamble expanded their presence in the Indian market. Retail saw Metro Cash and Carry, who entered into the Indian market in 2003 following the gradual opening up of the retail sector as well. The delicensing and relaxation of the MRTP restrictions allowed these companies to enter new sectors, expand operations and compete more freely in the Indian market. The reforms also attracted significant foreign direct investment, leading to the establishment of numerous multinational corporations in India. The list is long, so we move on. Hari, now read up about the changes in FDI and external trade.
Sure. So, with regards to foreign direct investment, there were changes in FERA, or the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, in the sense that they were relaxed. The policy statement abolished the threshold of 40% on foreign equity investments. The concept of automatic approval was introduced, whereby the RBI was empowered to approve equity investment up to 51% in 34 industries, with higher percentages up to 74% in mining, infrastructure, mining services, electricity generation and transmission, construction of roads, bridges, ports, harbors, and runways. The automatic approval of foreign direct investment up to 100% is given in all manufacturing activities in SEZs or special economic zones, except those subject to licensing or public sector monopoly. The defense sector was opened up with permission of up to 26% FDI. By the end of the decade, up to 100% foreign equity in many sectors was permitted.
As a result of the liberalization of foreign investment policies in India during the 1990s, several major investments were made into the Indian companies by foreign entities. Many foreign firms entered or expanded in India, and this includes some names like Coca-Cola. They re-entered the Indian market in 1993 after a 16-year hiatus. Pepsi, they expanded their presence significantly. Samsung entered in India in 1995. LG established its Indian subsidiary in 1997. Honda, they formed a joint venture with the Hero Group in 1984, but expanded significantly post-91. In the automobile sector, Maruti Suzuki, originally a joint venture, saw increased competition and growth, while companies like Hyundai and Ford entered the Indian market. Again, the list is long, so we move on. Trade and tariff reforms.
Good. For trade and tariff reforms, import licensing was abolished in 1991 for capital and intermediate goods. It remained in place for consumer goods for another decade when India lost a dispute at the World Trade Organization and was forced to abolish import licensing altogether.
चीटिंग करता है तू चीटिंग करता है तू
Except for a small number of items that remained restricted on grounds of health, safety, morality, or compliance with international agreements like narcotics or endangered species. In 1991, the highest tariff rate on imports was reduced from 355 to 150%. The peak most favored nation or MFN rates were decreased thereafter to 50% in 95-96, followed by a slight reversal and then again more gradually to 10% by 2007-8. And this remains the peak rate till date.
Capital goods and machinery, chemicals and pharmaceuticals, consumer goods, automotive components, petroleum, processed foods and beverages, and many other items saw notable increase in imports post-1991. Apart from these, the government also introduced exchange control reforms. Now, as part of the 1991 reform, the government devalued the rupee by 22% to dollar. In February 1992, a dual exchange rate system was introduced, which allowed exporters to sell 60% of their foreign exchange in the free market and 40% to the government at lower official price. Importers were authorized to purchase foreign exchange in the open market at a higher price, effectively ending the exchange control. Within a year of establishing this market exchange rate, the official exchange rate was unified with it. So, did these reforms change anything overnight? No. It takes time to realize the impact of policies. We shall discuss the impact of liberalization in a bit, but it's important to also look at some of the other sector-specific reforms that were introduced over the next few years. Raju, finally it's your turn to read up about some of the sector-specific reforms. Raju? Raju beta. Oh, Raju beta. Get up.
Oh, yes. Sector-specific reforms. Banking and insurance.
You jackass, it's banking.
Yeah. Banking. So on December 7, 1999, the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority was established. This opened the door to private entry, including foreign investors, and up to 26% foreign investment subject to obtaining license from IRDA is permitted.
This was subsequently increased to 49% in 2015 and 74% in 2021.
So, more than 25 foreign banks with full banking licenses and approximately 150 foreign bank branches are in operation presently. Under the 1997 WTO Financial Services Agreement, India committed to permitting 12 foreign banks branches annually.
Now, several foreign banks expanded their operations in India, including Citibank, HSBC, and Standard Chartered. Again, the list is long, so we move on. Meek, let's look into other sectors. Okay, the 1994 National Telecommunications Policy provided for opening cellular as well as basic and value-added telephone services to the private sector, with foreign investors granted entry. Rapid changes in technology led to the adoption of the new telecom policy in 1999, which provides the current policy framework. Accordingly, in basic cellular mobile paging.
Paging?
In basic cellular mobile paging and value-added services, global mobile personnel communications by satellite, FDI is limited to 49% subject to grant of license from the Department of Telecommunications. FDI up to 100% is allowed with some conditions for the internet service providers.
So companies like Bharti Airtel, Vodafone and later Vodafone Idea, Reliance Communications and later Reliance Jio entered or expanded significantly in the Indian telecom market as a result of these liberalization policies. Foreign companies like Hutchinson, which later became Vodafone, were also able to enter the market through JVs or acquisitions.
Yes. Other reforms, they included FDI up to 100%, permitted in roads, highways, ports, harbors and airports, with conditions for higher equity. Supporting services up to 51% foreign equity allowed without approval. Domestic air transport, 40% foreign equity and up to 100% investment by non-resident Indians permitted. The Electricity Act in 2003 aimed at restructuring the power sector and introducing competition. Delicensed generation except hydro projects. And for trading, they recognized as a distinct activity FDI permitted in generation, transmission and distribution for energy. For the Special Economic Zones or SEZ Act, it was passed in 2005. This act gave tax benefits to businesses for developing and operating SEZs and also to units allocated in these zones. The latter were also allowed for their export production, to import intermediate inputs duty-free and to buy domestic inputs exempted from indirect taxes.
Now, let us look at some indicators post-1991 until 2003 to gauge the impact of these reforms over the next decade. After the reforms, India's economy began to accelerate. By early 2000s, the GDP growth rate averaged around 5.5% to 6% annually. In 2002-03, the growth rate rebounded to approximately 5.9%, reflecting some recovery from the global slowdown and internal challenges. India's GDP grew from 4.7 lakh crore rupees in 1991 to 27 lakh crore rupees in 2003. This period saw a significant rise in per capita income as well. The ratio of total exports of goods and services to GDP in India approximately doubled from 7.3% in 1990 to 14% in 2000. Within 10 years, the ratio of total goods and services trade to GDP rose from 17.2% to 30.6%. Productivity in various sectors improved, particularly in manufacturing and services. The liberalization of trade and investment policies led to increased competition, which spurred efficiency and innovation. In terms of fiscal deficit management, it peaked at 8% of the GDP in 1991 and it was gradually reduced to 5.9% by 2003. Liberalization also had a significant effect on growth in some of the key service sectors. Overall, the average annual growth rate in the services sector shifted from 7% during 1981 to 1991
to 8.1% during 1991 to 2001. The service sector became the primary driver of economic growth, contributing to 50% of GDP by 2003. Sectors such as information technology or IT, telecommunications and financial services experienced rapid expansion, positioning India as a global player in the IT services. The industrial sector saw a revival, with growth rates averaging around 6 to 7% in the early 2000s. The liberalization policies encouraged private investment and modernization of industries. The demand for skilled labor increased significantly, leading to greater investments in education and vocational training. The IT boom created a need for more educated workforce, prompting reforms in higher education and technical training. The healthcare sector saw increased private participation, leading to improvements in service delivery. However, public healthcare remained underfunded and faced significant challenges in accessibility and quality. Now, economic reforms allowed for increased defense spending, though the focus was on modernization and procurement rather than substantial increase in overall budgets. By 2003, the impacts of the 1991 reforms were evident across various sectors of the Indian economy. The country experienced robust GDP growth, improved productivity, and a significant shift towards a services-oriented economy. While challenges remain in agriculture, public health, and education, the groundwork laid during this period set the stage for India's emergence as a major player in the global economy in the following decades. While all of these were working out better than ever before, there were some things that did not improve as much, or at least as expected. Growth rates in agriculture remained low, averaging around 2% annually during the 1990s. The Gini coefficient, a measure of income inequality, rose, indicating that while some segments of the population prospered, others remained marginalized. This disparity was particularly pronounced between urban and rural populations. Many people remained in informal employment with little job security or benefits. The government struggled to maintain fiscal discipline, and the deficit continued to impact public investment in essential services. Again, citing Dr. Panagaria, the most disappointing aspect of the 1990s experience has been the lack of acceleration of growth in the industrial sector. The average annual growth rate of this sector was 6.8% during 1981 to 91 and 6.4% during 91 to 2001. Given that many of these reforms were particularly aimed at this sector, this outcome was somewhat disappointing. Nevertheless, post-1991 reforms and favorable global conditions by 2002, it led to the next period of investment boom. Hari, let's go through a few points about this era.
Yeah, for sure. India saw a period of investment boom on the back of 1. Favorable global conditions and strong export growth. 2. Rising domestic savings and investments. 3. Inflows of foreign capital. 4. Productivity gains and job creation. And 5th, reforms and policy focus of supply and infra. And overall, there was a catch-up in manufacturing as well. Even as the boom was partly driven by global factors and was not entirely sustainable, there was evident uptake in growth rates, which attained highs of 8% and above. But eventually, they dipped post the 2008 crisis.
In words of Professor Bhattacharjee, despite the so-called policy paralysis of the then government, that is, the Manmohan Singh government, manufacturing output and exports grew rapidly. Then came the global financial crisis of 2008. The economic downturn in India was actually mild compared to other countries because of stricter financial sector regulation. A generous boost of fiscal spending propped up the Indian economy, but once again it resulted in high inflation and a deteriorating balance of payment situation, exacerbated by the high oil prices from 2010 to 2014. From 2008 to 2013, we saw significant public spending policies and waivers aimed at countering the effects of global financial crisis and stimulating economic growth. While these measures helped in the short term, they also led to increased fiscal deficits and raised concerns about the sustainability of public finances in the longer term. Raju, read out the major public spending initiatives or policies in the era.
Yes. Economic stimulus packages, These packages included increased public spending on infrastructure, tax cuts, and various incentives to boost demand and stimulate economic growth. Expansion of employment schemes such as the Narega, which guaranteed 100 days of wage employment in a financial year to every rural household, saw increased funding during this period. This was aimed at providing social security and improving rural livelihoods. The government expanded food subsidies to support the poor, especially in the wake of rising food prices. This included the distribution of subsidized food grains through the public distribution system. The FRBM, or the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, was relaxed to accommodate increased public spending. The fiscal deficit rose from 2.5% in 2007-8 to 4.8% in 2009-10 as a result of these policies. Public spending on health and education was prioritized, with increased allocations aimed at improving access and quality in these sectors. This included investments in healthcare infrastructure and educational programs. Then there were loan waivers for farmers. The government implemented these loan waivers to alleviate the burden of debt, which was further exacerbated by the economic downturn. This policy aimed to provide immediate relief to distressed farmers.
The public spending policies and waivers enacted in India from 2008 to 2013 faced several criticisms, particularly regarding their impact on sustainability, efficiency, targeting, and long-term economic growth. While these measures were aimed at countering the effects of the global financial crisis, the criticisms highlight the challenges of balancing immediate economic needs with the importance of structural reforms and fiscal discipline. The delays in mega projects like Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor or National Highways Development Projects or Bharatmala, Mumbai Metro, Sardar Sarovar resulted in large cost overruns. The reckless lending during the boom, the collapse of export markets, and the delays in land acquisition, allocation of telecommunication spectrum, and the environmental clearances, especially after the backlash against the scams around these issues like 2G, coal, Satyam, Commonwealth, Tatra, Chopper scam, IPL, Adarsh, and the list goes on. All of this resulted in stranded projects and massive NPAs on banks' balance sheets, which deterred them from further lending. The counterpart of this was massive liabilities on the borrowers' balance sheets, which deterred them from borrowing. This twin balance sheet or debt overhang problem resulted in a continuing fall in the ratio of investment to value added in manufacturing. The speedy resolution of NPAs that the IBC seemed to promise got bogged down in legal delays, and banks have instead written off huge amounts of outstanding loans in order to clean up their balance sheets. Raju, calm down. Take a deep breath. Relax. You need some Anulom Vilom.
Wasn't there a movement called India Against Corruption?
Yes, and it led to AAP. The period of 1991 to 2013 saw several governments and prime ministers from P.V. Narasimha Rao, H.D. Devegowda, I.K. Gujral, Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Manmohan Singh. The legacy of good, bad and the ugly that was eventually inherited by Modi government in 2013 had its roots in the past, spread across multiple governments, but majority a socialistic pattern that was present throughout in varying degrees. In the next session, we shall see whether the following governments under Prime Minister Narendra Modi really addressed the structural issues and brought about reforms. Whether this is really a right-wing government or more of the same. And what are the major plans for 2047? Until then, bye.